And welcome back to Idaho Today. Before we dive into our next segment, I do want to give a disclaimer that the following conversation that we'll be focusing on is rather difficult and serious, but one that does need to be addressed, especially this time of year. We're joined by Warm Springs Counseling Center to share ways that we can all be more diligent and alert to the increased potential for suicide and self-harm during the fall and winter months. Now, these are challenging subjects, but as stated, are very, very important. So we're joined right now by Mellisa. She's joining us again from Warm Springs Counseling Center. And, you know, just off the top, I have to say that because these topics tend to make people uncomfortable and are difficult to talk about, you know, could that also be one of the reasons why we see things a little heightened this time of year, right? It's supposed to be a jolly time. We're going into the holidays, right? And there's that pressure to just constantly be excited about, you know, Thanksgiving's coming up and then we got Christmas, but could that in itself just create a little extra pressure on people?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, seasons oftentimes remind us of anniversaries of loved ones that we've lost, whether it be to suicide or any kind of accidental death. And so a lot of the times that's a reminder, and it's hard for us to cope with that when there's so much jolly around us, and then we're reminded in those moments of grief that we don't have that person next to us for this Christmas.
Yeah, so that in itself can be challenging. What else could be some stressors that, you know, people should be a little more aware of this time of year? I mean, obviously, we've been in the middle of a lot of rain recently, right? And we've all heard about seasonal effectiveness disorder, right? Or SAD for an acronym, that can also make people feel a little more down. But what are some other things that people need to be a little more mindful of?
Yeah, so seasonal depression oftentimes comes with the change in the weather, right? It's colder, and we don't have the dark or the light, like late nights anymore. It's dark at around 5:30, and when you wake up in the morning, it's dark as well. Again, the holidays, right? Loss, grief, things are expensive. And if people are in a financial burden or a financial crisis, but then they have to put aside money to get Christmas presents for their loved ones, that is really complicated and really hard to cope with.
Yeah, it's a stressful time of year. You know, despite all the jolliness and the happiness, it's stressful. So what can we do, though, to be more mindful of those around us? What are some of the red flags, though, that we need to be aware of to help those who might be struggling?
The biggest thing is any change in behavior from someone's baseline. And so when I say baseline, I mean their everyday typical pattern, typical behaviors. When you see that shift in them, whether it's their mood or it's their change in social patterns, it's really important to recognize those. And also, there's no etiquette for grief, right? And there's no etiquette for suicide, but it's important to ask somebody, you know, I've noticed that you've been a little different lately. I noticed that you've been more irritable lately. I noticed that you've been more sad lately. Is there anything going on that I can help you with? Oftentimes our social support are not the mental health professionals, and that's okay. You don't have to be a professional to be able to ask somebody, what is it that you need? And then we can point them in the right direction to get that help. Yeah,
that's great. I'm so glad that you gave permission for people to feel confident enough to inquire, right? Because it's just a simple act of being there and just being aware of some of those red flags, and then to know where to go to get that person help. So where should people reach out if they are concerned?
children'shomesociety.com or Warm Springs Counseling Center, which is where I work. And we have a multitude of licensed professionals for anything from grief to depression to anxiety to family sessions. We're here to support these people, and knowing that we've lost so many people in the Treasure Valley in the last month to suicide, we're aware. We're highly aware, and we know that we need to help our community.
Yeah, and you just mentioned something that's very difficult, right, that we've experienced this past month. But you're hearing and you're paying attention, and that's why you're here today, to let everybody watching know that you're not alone and there is help and people do care, all right? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it. And we got a lot more to come right here on Idaho Today right after the break.